All right, so you've brought in some InfoWars articles
Yeah.
all about this alleged attempt on Trump's life.
Right.
And I gotta say, they really seem to be running with this narrative.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to unpack.
It is. So let's set the scene a little bit. Trump's at his golf course,
Right.
just enjoying his day, and then bam, reports of gunshots,
Mhm.
Secret Service rushes in. I mean, can you imagine the chaos?
Oh, absolutely. It would have been, I mean, just from the reports, it sounds like it was a madhouse for a while.
And that's what's so interesting to me is how InfoWars, they've really latched onto this, haven't they?
They have.
It's like they're weaving this whole thing into this bigger story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's all about this narrative they've been building around Trump,
Right,
that he's constantly under attack.
right. Like he's perpetually the victim.
Yeah, that he's always a target, always in danger. And it's interesting you see when you compare their coverage to, say, CNN
Right,
or the New York Post even, who, they reported on the incident,
right.
but they didn't automatically jump to, like, assassination attempt.
Right, right, exactly. And that's what I find so fascinating about this one specific detail that InfoWars keeps bringing up. This whole thing about an AK-47 being found
Oh, yeah.
in the bushes,
Yeah.
like right near the incident.
Right.
It's almost as if it's like they're smoking guns, so to speak.
Right, right. Well, I think the first thing, whenever we see stuff like this, always going to be like, consider the source.
Right,
We're
right.
talking about InfoWars. They have a long history of this, of using sensationalism. They really present themselves as, they have the real story.
The counter narrative.
Exactly, the counter narrative, like, we're the only ones telling you the truth.
Right,
And so this AK-47 detail, it kind of plays perfectly into that.
right. Okay, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, why the AK-47?
Oh,
It's not just any gun.
it's not. It's not. And I think that's the point, right? It's all about the symbolism of it.
Okay.
The AK-47 carries a lot of weight,
Right.
just culturally speaking,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see it's often the weapon used in mass shootings,
Certainly.
it's tied to all these images of terrorism and stuff. So immediately it evokes this sense of danger and fear.
Right.
So whether it's actually confirmed or not, just by zeroing in on that specific detail, InfoWars, they're tapping into these like pre-existing anxieties,
Yeah.
these fears that their audience already have.
Like it's almost like they're using code.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're
Oh,
using this really loaded imagery
yeah.
to kind of bypass like critical thinking
Exactly.
and just go straight for this emotional response.
Exactly. They're playing on gut reactions.
Okay, so moving on. You know what I find really, I don't know, kind of wild about all this is that they have this whole section in one of these articles,
Yeah.
just like completely flooded with memes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like they're trying to, I don't know, bury the actual event
Yeah, yeah.
under this wave of, internet humor.
Yeah.
But you know what? Some of them are actually pretty funny.
Right. That's the thing about memes, though, right? It's like this, it's fascinating, really,
It is.
how it reflects how we deal with information, how we communicate. And like, in this case, we're talking about a possible threat to a former president's life.
Right.
And then right next to it, you've got people making memes about it.
I know. It's kind of wild to think about.
It is. And it's, I think while it's interesting, it also can be a little concerning.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Because, these memes, they're often presented as, just a harmless joke, a little fun.
Right.
But they can actually be very effective at shaping narratives.
Oh, yeah.
And spreading misinformation.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Especially in, this political climate.
Oh, it's like a breeding ground for that stuff. Like, it spreads like wildfire online.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
So let's actually look at some of these memes
Okay.
so we can, see what we're dealing with here. Like this one with Taylor Swift, for example.
Yeah, the Taylor Swift one, that's a popular one.
Right. I mean, it's directly playing on, Trump's little comment, his recent comment about her.
Right, right.
And it's portraying him as like, untouchable.
Yeah.
Like even Taylor Swift can't take him down.
Yeah.
It just feeds into that whole idea of him being invincible.
And it's smart, right, because it uses her existing fan base, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
how culturally relevant she is. I mean, love her or hate her.
Everyone knows who she is.
Exactly. You know who Taylor Swift is. So it's a way to make that message, whatever that message is,
Right.
more shareable.
Right, right.
Because it's relatable.
It's more accessible.
Even if what it's saying underneath is potentially, harmful.
Right. Okay, so then there's this one, the classic, Democrats watching
Right.
meme.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It's portraying them as like totally clueless, ineffective.
Right. Incompetent.
Which, again, it's playing on that same narrative we've been talking about.
Exactly. Reinforcing these existing biases, beliefs, right?
Right.
By putting out these like overly simplified
Right.
and often really exaggerated
Totally.
depictions of like your political opponents.
Right.
And it's really about creating that us versus them thing.
Totally.
And once you do that, once you set that up, it becomes so much easier to just like dismiss opposing viewpoints.
Right.
And it just builds a distrust.
And then there's the whole thing about the alleged shooter, this Ryan Ruth, right? They really make a point in these articles of mentioning these like supposed ties he has to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they really highlight his past criminal record.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if they're trying to like build a case against him.
Right.
Before we even know all the facts.
Oh, and it's interesting how they immediately bring up Ukraine, right?
Right.
Especially with everything going on right now.
Exactly.
It's even if they don't come right out and say it.
Right.
They're definitely playing into this whole idea of, shadowy foreign interference.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, they're feeding into those same anxieties we were talking about earlier.
100%. And it's not even just the Ukraine thing, right?
Right.
They also mention this supposed 300-page manifesto that he wrote.
Oh, yeah, right.
Calling for, like, nuclear war. But they don't give any excerpts from it. No context, nothing. It's just like, boom. This one sentence dropped in there for, maximum impact.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like lobbing a grenade into a conversation and then walking away.
Exactly.
It's like they just want to evoke that fear, that outrage.
Right.
Without actually having to, back anything up.
It's very telling, isn't it?
It is.
That they would include that with zero, like, proof or anything.
And the thing is, it works.
It's
People read that, and they fill in the blanks with their own assumptions.
It all kind of goes back to the same pattern we've been talking about this whole time, right?
Exactly.
Using these emotionally charged words and images, and they're very careful about the details they choose to include and, I guess, more importantly, the ones they leave out.
Right.
And it all builds to this narrative
Right.
that's pushing people towards a very specific worldview.
It's manipulation, really, when you break it down.
It is.
It's just, it highlights how important it is to be, critical of the information that we're consuming these days, especially now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with the internet, with social media, it's like instant news 24/7. It's so easy to get caught up in the emotion of it all.
Right. But we have to take that step back.
Yes.
Analyze the source, look for evidence, try to figure out what their motivation is,
Yeah, 100%. So as we kind of wrap up here, I mean, what does this all mean, for everyday people just trying to navigate this crazy information landscape? What are your final thoughts on all this?
Well, I think this whole deep dive has been really eye-opening, honestly.
It has.
It's scary how easily misinformation can spread.
Right.
And how it often hides in plain sight.
Right.
Like, it's disguised as humor, or it's presented as like, this is the truth that they're trying to hide from you.
Right.
It's like that old saying, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Right.
But it's more important than ever now to be, discerning, to actually think critically about the information that we're taking in.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Well, hey, this has been, I don't know, kind of terrifying, honestly, but really fascinating. So thank you. Thank you for taking us on this deep dive. I think we all learned a lot today.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Always happy to do it.